Emerson is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. You could reach into the box and get something terrible like standardized testing, but then you could get something amazing like a 3-day whitewater rafting trip. But either way, you do get something. We'll start when Emerson is in 5th grade, when we start having to deal with random noises from upstairs. But that, of course, comes with being on the bottom floor. There's science and social studies with Mr. Keith, where we learn the answer to every science question. The sun, or the moon, or even buoyancy. Then there's English language arts, in which we are introduced to Miss Sweeney's unnaturally perfect handwriting. Even today, I still don't understand how it's so good. Math with Mr. Boardman was where we were introduced to both his army of rubber duckies on the windowsill, all different from one another, and Quiet Ball, which is like a game of catch, except you couldn't make any noise, and this was a problem because we're generally loud. A summer later, and Emerson is in 6th grade, in which we have science and social studies with GR, math with Miss Nicholson, and ELA with Miss Spells. This was also the year where we had our puberty unit in health class. That was detailed. Science and social studies had a lot to do with farming, food, and the earth. We would go outside and look at a garden, or maybe the compost box full of worms, with a couple of COA students. We would make projects on various things, such as organic versus non-organic, and at the end of the year we would have a huge fair-like thing and present our projects. 6th grade math was where we began learning the basics of algebra, including doing math stuff with integers, which we all memorized with Sol. When the signs are the same, then you add. The answer is the signs they both have. When the signs are opposite, then you gotta subtract it. Greatest absolute value is the sign. Integers rock. In ELA, we went down to the lower building and read books to 1st graders. As you might expect, it was kind of really adorable. We also read Small as an Elephant as a class, which was a story set here on this island. We then got our own book signed by the author. I still have mine. In 7th grade, Emerson is finally upstairs, where we no longer have to deal with random noises from above. But 7th grade life was not an easy one, especially since now we had 4 classes instead of 3. Social studies, science, ELA, and math. The first thing that Ms. Brockman told us when we walked into social studies was about the infamous 196 countries test, where you had to memorize the locations of every country in the world. But no worries, we had 2 years to study. In the meantime, we gave ancient Greek-style speeches as we threw cereal at each other. Ms. Brockman was also prepared for like everything. She had buckets full of school supplies in the back windowsill and 3 pencil sharpeners, and you could ask her for anything and she'd give it out of her desk and give it to you. Cough drops and band-aids, paper clips, binder clips, extra maps, study sheets, whatever. You could just ask. And remember those weird noises? Well, it turns out they were mostly from science. We did a lot of experiments in Miss Hannah's class, and whether it be sending coaster cars flying down the hallway, building ramps, dropping things, recording things, breaking things, or putting things back together, we made a lot of noise. Sorry, business is good. We also went down to the sandbar a few times in both 7th and 8th grade. From there, we would look at green grass, ocean oxygen levels, water salinity, and collected seagrass for our seagrass tank in the back of the school. In ELA, we got to read every other day. Reading The Giver as a class with Miss Toole was pretty interesting, and we talked about a lot of deep stuff. Was total safety more important, or was individuality and freedom and consequences? What did it mean to be a person, and why do people act in this way? To end up on 7th grade ELA, here's my favorite Miss Toole quote. "Ermagerd unicorns!" I bet you're expecting something really deep. The textbook we used to use in Miss Allen's class were really weird because they were like from the 90s, and they were kind of falling apart, and not to mention the fact that every other person in the pictures had either a mullet or a bowl cut. At least we had brownies. Always a plus. And now, suddenly, finally, Emerson is in 8th grade. the year of fundraising, the year of the whitewater rafting trip, the year of all the big tests, and our very last year. This was also the year where we watched the birth video in health class. As you might expect, it was traumatizing. And I quote from Ms. Brotzman, "The birth video is the best birth control." Well, she's not wrong. Mr. Chapp's class was always quite the experience. He's a Time Lord, you know. He'd write sentences about his adventures every day, and they'd always contain the day's vocabulary word. We also got candy when we were in class, and Mr. Chapp would often boast that he would make them from scratch using his secret recipe. He would say this every time he opened up a new package to fill up his endless bucket of food. Math class with Mr. Maker was also quite the experience. It's strange because no matter where you go, you can just sense him judging you. It's funny because he's a really good teacher, but the feeling is always there. Strangely enough, CLA was kind of intertwined with math because the two rooms were right next to each other, and that meant the only thing separating us from Mr. Chapp was a wall. Whenever the room was quiet, you could hear Mr. Chapp. Like, we'd all be taking a test, right? And all super quiet, and then suddenly you just hear, "Muldoon!" Thanks, Mr. Chapp. Of course, through 5th and 8th grade, we had other classes as well. Whether it be jail ball and gym class with Mr. Renaud and Ms. Colby, and then with Mr. Powers and Mr. O'Connell, building snail houses in French with Madame Miller, painting trees and art with Miss Cramp, or talking about things and health with Ms. Broxman and Mr. O'Connell, there was plenty to do every morning. And we can't forget about music. Band and jazz band with Mr. Wayner and then Mr. Ellis, orchestra and strings and show choir with Miss Emerson, chorus with both music teachers. No matter what it is, there's something fantastic going on. So after 4 long years of Emerson, here we are. After much work and effort, we're all here together in these final moments. What is Emerson? Emerson is the memories of the past 4 years that we all shared together. Some good, some bad, like a box of chocolates. That is what Emerson is. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Swallage so she can present the Dick Lee Award.